If you're hot, just tell the person next to you, give me some space. So, we've been on a series of living the dream, and we've stuck on this one. I'll tell you what, I have melted about everything out of this I can get. I think we've been on it all year so far. So that is 2 full months of one series. That's a lot. And maybe you've missed some. I encourage you to go back. You can check out our YouTube. I'm not going to highlight everything from this series. I'll just say this, that there's a huge difference between having a dream by God and walking in your purpose by God. Here's a huge difference. I believe this: God gives a dream to everybody, but God also gives a purpose for everybody. And anybody can just have a dream by God. I mean, he'll give his dream he'll give it to you. I know as you're young, a lot of times he'll kind of give you a dream. He'll give that to you early, but a lot of people have dreams and never fulfill their dream, never fulfill their purpose. Just have a dream. And this is why we called it living a dream, because they're just living in a dream world. Here's the thing that will keep you, though. Here's the thing that makes the difference from just living a dream, living in a dream world, and walking in your purpose. And it's your character. God will build your character up along the way. And as your character grows, you begin to walk in your purpose. But if your character never grows, you will never be able to fulfill the purpose that God has for you. So there's going to be moments throughout your life that there will be tests that God gives you, a character test, where it's either like we're looking at the life of Joseph and it's the prison, or it's the pride, or it's the pit that he's in, or it's even the success moments in his life. Because sometimes we can have success, and if we're not ready for it, we are awful to be around. How many know somebody that you give them a little bit of power, and you can't stand to be around them? Do y'all know somebody like that? Are you sitting by anybody like that? Don't nudge and say, he's preaching right at you. Don't do that. That's the pride test that you're failing. So you think you have it all together. So there's these moments of everything that your character has to grow in order to fulfill the purpose that God has for you. But I did feel like there's one thing I need to share with you, one more thing. We're closing out our series today, but it's this, because here's a big question, and I'm going to preach to you on it, and it's, how do you find your purpose? How is it that you find your purpose? I'll tell you, as a pastor, that's the question I get asked a lot, especially when I was a youth pastor. Oh my goodness. Everybody wanted to know, what's God's will in my life? And I would always tell them, I don't know. Ask God. I'm not gonna put that on you. So how do you find your purpose? And I'm excited. Hey, next week I'm going to start a brand new series, and it'll be the purpose of the church. So I want you to make sure you're coming to that. We'll share a lot of our vision. We'll share our dream, the church's dream, and our vision with you, and how we can walk in our purpose. So make sure you're coming for that. But today, how do you find your purpose? And in Genesis chapter 45, in verse 3, it says this: Then Joseph said to his brothers, I'm Joseph. Does my father still live? But his brothers could not answer him, for they were dismayed in his presence. I bet they were. Could you imagine this? They sold him to slavery. He was in slavery for between slavery and prison, 13 years. And then when he gets to begin to walk in his purpose, there's 7 great years. They're now 2 years into a famine, and they've come to get help from Egypt because there's not enough for them, because they're in this famine. they come to Joseph, and Joseph is right now revealing himself to them that I'm your brother Joseph, who you sold into slavery 22 years ago, by the way. Could you imagine they're thinking at this moment, the brothers, they've got to be in shock. So when he says, look, I'm your brother Joseph, I want to know something, is my dad still alive? Their response would have had to have been, what did you just say? I missed something here. We thought you were dead. We thought we'd never see you again. We don't want to see you again. I see dead people. I mean, that's the whole, that had to have been their thought right then. That dismayed. And Joseph said to his brothers, please come near to me. So they came near to him. Then he said, I am Joseph, your brother. Had to say it again. They were still in shock. I'm your brother whom you sold into Egypt. But now do not therefore be grieved or angry with yourselves because you sold me here. For God sent me before you to preserve life. For these 2 years the famine has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvesting. And God sent me before you to preserve a posterity for you in the earth, and to save your lives by great deliverance. So now it was not you who sent me here, but God. And he has made me a father to Pharaoh, and the Lord of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Egypt. So powerful right here. Joseph's response in this moment. In first seeing his brothers after 22 years, he recognizes them. He recognizes and realizes, hey, guys, y'all sold me into slavery, but don't worry about it. It was God. God was in control the whole time. What an amazing just revelation that Joseph had at this moment. As he's finding, really, for the first time, he's realizing this was my purpose. He found his purpose in this one moment, and he's revealing it to them. This was my purpose. The whole time, this was my purpose. So how do you find your purpose? If you're taking notes, hey, let me start right here. You have to realize first, you have to believe that you have a purpose. How many know that's true? You'll never find your purpose if you don't believe that you have a purpose. This is the number one question I said. The number one question I would get asked, especially as a youth pastor now. As a pastor, I get asked a lot of different questions. I get asked questions like, why do we have fog? Or, I get all these kinds of questions, but as a youth pastor, I'm playing. I don't get those questions here. You are so good. I hear other pastors telling me, I was playing golf the other day with a pastor, and he told me one of his people in his church said, and if you bring that fog out, I'm leaving. Thank God none of you are like this. But I would get asked this question, especially as a youth pastor. What's the will of God in my life? I want to know what's my purpose, what's my steps. I want to know what I was created for. That's what they're asking me. And they're just hoping that I'll just tell them at the moment, well, here's what God called you to do. I know pastors that do that. They lead cults. I had somebody tell me before that I pastored, they said, look, I know that God has called me to be a worship leader and a piano player. Oh, they had to go together. I know God's called me because my pastor spoke that over me. And God told them that I would be a worship leader and a piano player. Here was the problem. She couldn't sing and she couldn't play the piano. Neither one, and she's in her 30s at this point. So I had to be the bad guy that says, look, God didn't call you to be that. He's not mean like that. Because you can't sing and you can't play the piano, you're not called to be that, because who he calls, he equips. And he didn't equip you to do that. I had to be the bearer of bad news in that moment. But you have to believe this, that God has a purpose and a plan for your life. This one question that we ask ourselves, why am I here? And I know you wonder that. You wonder, did I miss something? Maybe I was supposed to be this, but I settled in life and I'm this. Listen, you have to realize God has the plan all along. He has a plan. He has a purpose for your life. So if you're wondering that, do I have a purpose? The answer is yes, you do. You have a purpose. Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 1, it says this, to everything there is a season. And then look at this next line. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time for every purpose under heaven. In other words, God has a purpose for everything. Think about it. God has a purpose for everything. All of creation has a purpose. He didn't make anything that does not have a purpose. When he planted the trees, they have a purpose. They provide oxygen that we get to live. They have a purpose. They serve a purpose. You might not know the purpose of everything, but it has a purpose. When God made the animals, every single one of them have a purpose. They have a purpose in the ecosystem. If we try and we mess up a little bit of that and we bring animals over like Christopher Columbus with the pigs, and now we can't get rid of them because they're not supposed to be in this ecosystem. Their purpose was somewhere else. Because everything has a purpose. God created everything with a purpose. Even the insects have a purpose. I don't know what the mosquito's purpose is. But I'm sure in heaven I'll find out, well, here's the reason. Everything everything has a purpose. And listen to me, that includes you. You have a purpose. You're no different. And the best way to discover your purpose is to look how God made you. Just look at yourself. Look at deep inside. How did God make me? What did he create me to be? You can look at every part of creation. You can look at how somebody just designed something and creates something, and you can just look at it and realize its purpose that they had for that when they designed it, when they created it. You are no different, and God's no different. If you look at your giftings, you look at your abilities, you look at what you were created for, what you can do, you'll realize I have my purpose. And in my purpose is in my creation. It's in my giftings, it's in my talents, it's in my abilities. You can do things that other people can't do. Now, some of those are useless. You have some use, like I can juggle. That's useless. That's not part of my purpose. But listen, you have abilities and you have talents that just come natural to you. It's part of your purpose. So I want you to look at not just your natural lives, but look in the spiritual realm. Look at your spiritual giftings that God made you with. So you have to believe, in order to find your purpose, you have to believe you have a purpose. Number 2 would be you have to understand that God's in control. That's hard, isn't it, to get that part? You have to understand that God is in control of it. He's in control of all of it. That passage that I read to you is a short passage. And in that little short passage, 3 times, Joseph said, God sent me. I don't know if you caught that. 3 different times he said that. He said in the 5th verse, he said it in the 7th verse. In the 8th verse, he said, it wasn't you who sent me, but God. 3 different times he said, look, he's declaring, God sent me here. He was saying God was in control all along. A man who was sold into slavery at age 17. A man who was his father's favorite. And not just any father. I mean, his father was a successful, wealthy father. He's the favorite. And he's sold into slavery by his brothers. While in slavery, it looks like things are getting pretty good until Potiphar's wife lies about him. So he goes from slavery to prison. While in prison, he is forgotten about by a butler that was to Pharaoh that he helped, that he cared for. He was forgotten about by him. And this guy who had all of these things go wrong for him declares it to his brothers at this moment. Look, it was God who was in control all along. God sent me here. God set it up the whole time. In the moments I didn't realize what was happening, in the moments I thought I was forsaken, in the moments I thought I had blew it, I thought somebody else messed up my plan and his plan, but I realize now at this moment that I have found my purpose, that God sent me here for this time, for this moment to save lives. I found my purpose, and God was in control of it all along. See, I want you to realize that. You have to realize that nobody can derail the plans and the purpose that God has for you but you. You're the only one. Nobody else can. I don't care what they did to you. I don't care what they said about you. I don't care if they lied to you. I don't care if they cheated you. They don't control your destiny. God does. They don't have that kind of power. They didn't create you. They didn't put the purpose in you. They didn't design you. And they can't destroy what God has for you. They're not that powerful. Nobody can destroy God's purpose in your life but you. Nobody can mess it up. I don't care what they did. I don't care what it cost you from what they did. They still don't have the power to destroy God's purpose in your life. He controls your future. Come on. He controls your future. He controls your destiny. They don't. I love this scripture that Paul wrote in Romans 8:28. And you got to realize something about Paul. Paul was a guy who was beaten, who was thrown into prison, who spent most of his ministry behind the prison doors, writing the books that we get to read. This guy who was beaten, who was shipwrecked, who had everything against him, who was stoned a couple of times, not even once, just once, but a couple of different times stoned. This guy says this. He says, and we know. And he wrote this in prison, by the way. And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his what? Purpose. He's writing this from a prison cell, and we know that all things work to the good. My beating, my lockup, all of this. He's saying, I know this at all of it works for the good who are called according to his purpose. What he's saying is, look, God has a purpose, and he will use everything in your life, not just the good stuff, but the bad stuff that Satan tried to mess you up with. He'll use all of it for his glory and for his purpose in your life. He's so much in control that even the things in your life that seem out of control, he says, nah, I got this. I'll use this. I'll use this to grow some character so that you can fulfill your purpose. I'll use this to grow you in a new way so you'll be even stronger and better. What the enemy thought they were using to destroy you, I will use to make you even better. Look, I've got the plans. I've got the future. It's in my hands. I know my purpose for you, and I'll fulfill it. Isaiah 55 says this, verse 10, it says, as the rain and the snow comes down from heaven and does not return to it without watering the earth and making it bud and flourish, so it yields seed for the sower and bread for the eater. Look at verse 11. So is my word that goes out from my mouth. It will not return to me empty, but will accomplish what I desire and achieve the what purpose for which I sent it. God declaring what I speak, when I speak, my word will come back to me after it fulfills the purpose that I sent my word out to do. Here's the great thing about it. God has spoken over your life. He has spoken over your life. He has spoken a plan for you. He's spoken a purpose for you. He has spoken a destiny and a future. He has spoken these things over you, over your life. And because he has spoken it over your life, no one, not even Satan, can stop or derail what he has spoken over you. So you have to believe that. You have to believe you have a purpose. And then you have to understand that God is in control of it. That should make you breathe a lot better, because some of y'all think, well, I just blew it. Man, my life, I would have thought at this point, I had a plan. I thought it was from God, and it didn't work out the way I thought. So now you think it's over, and I want you to know, look, God's still in control. I mean, think of this. Joseph, it was, when he's speaking this, it's 22 years after God gave him a dream. And that dream did not go as he planned it to be. I'm sure after the dream, he did not think, my first step in order to fulfill my dream, I think my first step will be, I'll let my brothers beat me up and throw me in a pit. That'll really just fast forward this thing. And then if I can just learn something as a slave, I think I'll be able to work myself up in second in command of all of Egypt. I think that will just be great. If I can experience a little bit of prison life, that'll be just good. That'll harden me up. Give me some street cred. I mean, that'll be great. I'm sure he wasn't thinking. He probably thought, it's all over. Just blow it. But God was in control. Moses, he didn't begin to walk in his purpose until he's 80. So if you're under 80, there's still a chance. And he fulfilled that for 40 years. So, hey, you've still got time. He thought at 40, he thought he was going to begin to walk in his purpose, and he felt he blew it when he was caught to be a murderer, so he fled from it all for 40 years. And then God said, hey, I think now's the time. Because God was in control all along. So you have to believe that you have a purpose, that he's in control of it. And then if you want to find your purpose, here's this. You need to discover your gifts and your direction. That's all you have to do. Because we all have gifts. We all have those natural abilities. They're just easier to us. Some of us, I've realized that we miss out on our giftings so much because it comes too easy for us. It comes too natural to us sometimes. So we miss out on it. So look at yourself. What is it that you get to do? When you're helping somebody out and they say, I don't know how you, and you're thinking, I don't know how you don't get this. It's just easy. That's a gift. It's natural to you. So start looking at your natural gifts. It's part of your design. And he designed you on purpose, for a purpose, and that's part of it. Your giftings, your abilities. And then look at even your spiritual gifts, your motivation gifts, if you will. This is what, when Paul writes these in Romans 12, these giftings I'm about to read to you, these are things that motivate you. They're part of what God's already put into you. He says this, he said this in verse 4, for as we have many members in one body, but all the members do not have the same function. So we, being many, are one body in Christ and individually members of one another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us. And I like this, let's use them. Come on, isn't it just ridiculous if you don't use your gifts? Isn't it ridiculous if you're trying to use somebody else's gifts and it's not your gift? Come on. Tell your neighbor, use your own gift. But use it. He goes on to explain, he says, look, if prophecy, let us prophesy in proportion to our faith. Or ministry, let us use it in our ministry. Man, that's a hard one for me to get. The gift of speaking, I don't really grasp that all the way, by the way. It's just, I get tongue-tied. It says, he who teaches in teaching. He who exhorts in exhortation. He who gives with liberality. He who leads with diligence. And he who shows mercy with cheerfulness. These are, and you might not grasp these 7 gifts that Paul gives at this moment, all of us have one of them, at least. Every single one of us. These are motivating gifts. These are gifts that just move you to do something. These are the gifts that all of us have this in our lives. This isn't the spiritual gifts that he talks about in 1 Corinthians 12. These are different. These are your motivating gifts. And let me explain their functions a little bit to you so that you can grasp this, so you can realize, okay, I've got this. And you'll see, yeah, this is mine right here. For one, he said the first one he says is the gift of prophecy. Now the gift of prophecy right here that he's using it's different than the manifestation, spirit manifested. I'll tell you, I'll get it out sooner or later. The spiritual gift of prophecy in 1 Corinthians 12, it's different than that. That one is a gift of the Spirit. This one is a gift that he gives to you naturally. It's just part of you. It's a different gift. These are natural gifts. And prophecy here in the Greek, it's the gift of communicating or enforcing revealed truth. I like to call it the motivator. This is really what that kind of gift would be. If you could redefine it, it's the motivator. And the motivator, I mean, their desire is to motivate people to serve God. And so many, look, you have this, somebody might out here, this is kind of my gift. I love to, now the communicating I mess up on a lot, but this is my kind of, it motivates me. I get charged up. I'm motivated to speak life into people, and I'm always trying to find revealed truths that I can share. It's just who I am. It moves me, it challenges me, it energizes me. So this is this gift. The other gift, the New King James Version where I read it was ministry. But ministry, the Greek word of this is actually serve. So a lot of the other translations will say that. It will say serve, a servant. And look, if this is your gift, a servant's gift, their desire is to meet needs of people on a practical basis. And some of you, when it's put that way, it's like, oh, that's me. I love to just help people out. If you hear a need, you just want to meet that need. You want to find a way to meet that need. I mean, you're concerned about it. Me, as my motivation, is like, I just want to speak life into them. And you're like, oh, they need help. Yeah. Like, well, Jesus can do it. Amen. He's the answer. But a servant, I want to meet the practical needs. Or a teacher, the teacher, their desire is to study and present truths to people. I mean, they're just moved by this. This is someone who loves to study, loves to read books, loves to ask me deep theological questions that I don't have the answer for. These are these people. I mean, they just love to go, they want to go deep. And they want to know more and more and more. These are these people. Why? Because they want to teach people. The more they know, the more they can help. They know that. So they want to teach. It's what drives them. The others is an encourager. Or when we read, it's exhorts. And exhorts means this, to encourage or to comfort. This is why I say it's an encourager. Their desire is to admonish or encourage people. They are the ones you want to be around when something's not good in your life. Come on. You want somebody who will encourage you, who will lift you up, who will make you feel like everything's going to be all right. Some of you are like that. Some of you know somebody like that. And you need to tell them, look, you're that. I need you to do that for me right now. Just encourage me. They make you feel better. The other that Paul mentioned was the giver. The giver, their desire is to meet needs on a financial basis. And God blesses them financially to be able to do that. These are people who God blesses with great business skills so that they can meet, and it just moves them to meet needs of people. They have the resources, and they want to help as many as they can. Administrator, or it said, he who leads. This is somebody that's an administrative type. This is the person who writes notes right now, and they're organized about it. They love to manage. They love to lead. Their desire is to help people through organization. These people who have this gift, this natural gift, they are very, very organized people. How many know somebody with that gift? How many know somebody who thinks they have that gift, but they really don't have that gift? Because you can look in their car and realize you don't have the gift. It would drive you crazy if you had that gift and your car looked like that. Brandy has this gift. I know this because she'll come into my office, and the thing that she can't even work until my office desk is organized and cleaned up. I don't have that gift. She'll clean it up, and I'll go, where'd you do with my stuff? Like, I had it, that pile right there of papers that was right there. The one I was looking for, I knew was the fifth pile, the fifth paper in that file. She has this gift, though. She just loves to organize. She manages things so well. Or you have this last one. It's the gift of mercy that Paul mentioned. And mercy would be like the sympathizer. And that's their motivation. Their desire, they desire just identify, and they empathize with people. These are the people that will just cry with you when you're going through something. They're the people who actually, they feel your pain. They really do. And they will just cry with you and get you through it. And the kingdom needs these people. Because when you're going through something, you don't need me, who has this prophecy type gift, natural ability. Because I'll tell you, God will work all things out to the good to those who, and you're just thinking, I'm hurting right now. I don't even want to hear that. I just want somebody to cry with me at this moment. When you're going through something, you want the person with the gift of mercy, and you want the encourager, and then you'll work yourself up to me later. Like, okay, I'm feeling a little bit better now. Now give me something good. What's going to happen now? According to the word. But at the moment, have you ever been going through something and somebody with the wrong gift comes and speaks in your life? And you feel worse afterwards? And you're mad at God and everybody at that moment. Because somebody wasn't using the right gift at the right time. And Paul's saying, look, God is so good. He put all of these in the church, all of these, and they have these natural gifts. And you need to know what they are, because when you know what your gifting is, it will just begin to boost you in finding your purpose. If I can just kind of give these, just a practical, just give you an example of how these gifts kind of all work in a church. I remember as a pastor up in Indiana, and we'd have these board meetings, and thank goodness we don't have board meetings, because I don't like board meetings. It's just, we'd have these board meetings, and the guys in the board all kind of had these little giftings. My secretary, Mike, he was the administrative type gifting. I mean, he was calling before, like, hey, I'm setting the agenda for the board meeting. I know you don't have that gift, so we'll just go whatever, and I can't handle that. So he's setting the agenda. He's calling me, what is it you're wanting to do? Let's organize this thing. Let's set it all up. And then when there's a need in that board, I would present like, hey, somebody in our church, they're going through something right now. They just lost their job, and the electric company, they're about to shut off their electricity, and we need to just figure out what we're going to do, if we can help them out in this manner. And as soon as a need is presented, that's where you begin to see the giftings just go into action. You begin to see him. The person that's the servant, he's over there. He's organizing right now. He's calling his wife and saying, hey, we need to stop by the grocery store and get some things for this couple that they're going through something, and go ahead and start a meal train, because we need to get this thing going for them and make sure it's working. The encourager, he's already texted them, hey, it'll be all right. God will get you through this. Hey, we love you. We're here for you. We just want to just encourage you at this moment. We have the teacher over there. He's saying, look, if you can just help me, let me get a hold of their finances. I'll begin to teach them a little bit so we can prep them through on these moments right here. The giver, he's already said, hey, we need an offering for him. I'll give the first 100 right here, that we can just help them make it through this, get them through this. And the person with mercy, they're just in the corner crying. They're just over there bawling, praying for them. Oh, God, you know the need. Help them, God, help them. I mean, what I'm saying, you begin to see these kind of things coming to pass, don't you? You can look in Joseph's life and tell his natural gifting was an administrator. He was a leader. He was administrating everywhere he went. He was leading. He was managing. He didn't wait until he was in front of Pharaoh and then start to use his gift that God gave him. He used his gift when he was in Potiphar's house as a slave. He used his gift when he was a prisoner and a leader of the guards. You even see it early on in his life as a kid at 17, and God sending him, his father sent him out to look over and watch over his brothers, because you see this natural ability of him just leading. I bet you anything, in the pit, he was using his gift of administrating. I don't know how, but I guarantee you that was the most organized pit you would have seen. Because he was just using his gifts every opportunity he had. And many people say, well, when I get into the position, then I'll begin to use my gifts. When I get into this place, then I'll begin to use my gifts. I'm telling you, if you don't use your gifts now, you'll never get there. Your direction and your leading and finding your purpose is wrapped around your giftings. And you have to use your gifts in order to find your purpose. I know you might have had some setbacks. We all have setbacks. But keep faithful in your gifts. Use them. I mean, think about what if, and Shelby, will you come back up here, please? That'll speed me up. Somebody with the gift of mercy is over here going, oh, God, please let him go faster. For their sakes, God. What if Joseph, while in prison, stopped using his gifts? What if he said, look, I'll never be able to fulfill my dream now. Kind of saw a little light at the window when I'm working for Pharaoh for Potiphar. But now I'm in prison, I'll never be able to be anything. What if he stopped using his gifts? What if, when a need was presented itself, because that's where these gifts begin to happen, what if when the butler and the baker presented their need of what needed to be done, if Joseph would have said, I got my own things to worry about. I'm not doing this. The butler would have never been able to know, when Pharaoh had the dream, would have never been able to say, I know a guy. Man, I know a guy. His name was Joseph. And God's blessed him. And if anybody can do it, it's Joseph. But if Joseph wouldn't have used his gifts, he never would have been able to step before Pharaoh. Listen, be faithful. I know we want specifics. When I'd have people ask me, Pastor, what I want to know what God's will is for my life. I know they're wanting specifics. They're wanting me to let them know if they're supposed to take this job, or are they supposed to go to college and study this degree? Are they supposed to marry this person or that? They're wanting specifics. Now, I've noticed in this, God doesn't give specifics. When he gave Joseph a dream, he gave him a broad dream. It wasn't until Joseph is already walking in his purpose that he realizes, this is it. I found my purpose. I'm here to save lives. God did all of it right now for this moment. We want specifics. Listen, you want to know what your purpose is? You'll find it when you're walking in it. And you'll find it by being faithful in your gifts. Because God's in control. And you walk in your giftings. And God will guide you into your purpose, whether you realize it or not. Come on, will you stand with me? There'll be a moment, I believe this. I believe this with all my heart. If you're faithful in your gifts, if you're faithful in your abilities, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're facing, if you're faithful in it, there will be a moment that you'll stand and you'll have a conversation with somebody, and it'll all of a sudden just be, man, God did it. And I'm here today and I'm walking in my purpose. I'm fulfilling my purpose right now because God did it. Amen. He sent me. How amazing would that be? But it's not always easy. John Wesley, that great evangelist, if you've heard of him, John Wesley, back in the day, just this powerful preacher, started the Methodist movement, came out from his ministry. John Wesley, he wrote this in his diary. They found it in this, I thought was so funny. He said, Sunday a.m. May 5th, under that log, he put, preached in St. Anne's Church, was asked to not come back anymore. Sunday p.m. May 5th, preached at St. John's. Deacon said, get out and stay out. Sunday a.m. May 12th, preached in St. Jude's. Can't go back there either. Sunday a.m. May 19th, preached in St. somebody else's. Deacon called special meeting, said, I can't return. Sunday p.m. May 19th, preached on street, kicked off street. Sunday a.m. May 26th, preached in Meadows, chased out of Meadow as bull was turned loose during service. Sunday a.m. June 2nd, preached out at the edge of town, kicked off the highway. Sunday p.m. June 2nd, afternoon, preached in a pasture. 10,000 people came out to hear me. See, there'll be so many times that you'll just say it's time to quit. That everything's going wrong. Nothing's going right. But if you're faithful, I'm telling you, if you are faithful, God can promote you in a moment. He can take you from the prison to Pharaoh's palace in a moment. If you're faithful, He'll handle it, and you'll walk in your purpose. If you're faithful with your gifts, don't stop. I want you to bow your heads with me, and I want our prayer team to come up. Let me ask you, what is God speaking to you? Now, I feel this. I feel I have to do this. You can't be faithful in your gifts, and you'll never fulfill what God created you to be if you don't have a relationship with your Creator. You'll never find it if you don't have a relationship with Him. He created you for a purpose. He wants to fulfill that purpose in your life. But in order to know it, you have to know Him. If you're here this morning and say, Pastor, I don't know Him. I've experienced the hard things, and in the hard things, I've turned my back, I've given up. But just today, I just felt like I needed to be here, and I don't know why. But right now, the Holy Spirit's speaking to you, and you say, Pastor, I want to give my life to Him. I need to surrender to Him. And if that's you this morning, with nobody looking around, I'm not going to embarrass you, but if that's you, say, Pastor, I want to give my life to Christ. If that's you, would you just slip up your hand? I just want to pray with you. Say, Pastor, I need to surrender to Him. I need to surrender to Him. If He's going to be in control of it, then I need to surrender to Him and let Him be in control. Or is that you? Just slip up your hand. Say, I want to give my life to Him. Father, God, I just pray right now that, God, you are the God that's in control. And God, I know there's some here that they have faced challenges, they faced difficulties, and it would be easy to give up and say no more. But God, let them be faithful in it, because you never know when the moment will be, when the breakthrough happens, and all of a sudden, it's a promotion time. So God, let them be faithful in their gifts and faithful to you. In Jesus' name. Well, and this morning, as we spend just a little bit of time in worship, I want you to ask the Holy Spirit, what are you speaking to me? What is it that you're dealing with me about, God? Let me be open to it. What are areas that I'm lacking? What are some character things I need to work on? What are those? Just speak to me, God. And if you need prayer for anything right now, our prayer team's here to pray with you. They're here on the sides. The altars are open. But come, let's worship Him.
Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside.